Hey everyone, ready to get a little lost?
Lost in thought, that is.
That's right, and today we're going deep with this text called A Beautiful Place to Get Lost. It gets into some pretty big questions about who we are, you know?
The meaning of it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do we find some kind of peace in this crazy world?
Yeah, it's a text that really wants us to, take a look inside. It uses these really
beautiful images.
beautiful, metaphors, and, it's very poetic.
Yeah.
It gets us thinking about, our own experiences.
Totally. And one of the first things I thought was so interesting was this idea of the cage of simplicity. It uses this metaphor of a bird in a cage that's too afraid to fly.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
It's a powerful image. What's really interesting is the cage isn't something from outside. It's self-made.
Wow.
The bird, representing us, builds this cage out of its own fears and those limiting beliefs it has, and it clings to the safety of what it knows.
Right.
Even if that safety is actually holding it back.
Yeah, totally. And I think it makes you think about all the what ifs we all have, right?
Right.
Like those things that could happen that we worry about, so we play it safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this text is really asking us to look at those ways we might be holding ourselves back.
Okay.
Like, what are we afraid of? What are the things we believe that just aren't true? What are those stories we tell ourselves that are keeping us trapped? Are we settling for just more of the same?
Right.
Or are we going to try something really new and different?
Yeah, like it's so easy to get stuck wanting more,
Right.
more money or a bigger house, whatever. But we miss out on that real more, right?
Right.
Like that comes from doing something totally new, something that you.
Yeah, that changes how you see what's possible,
Yeah, exactly.
So what would it take for you to, break free from that need for more and, do something totally different?
Wow. That's hard to even imagine.
Yeah.
Like our minds are so used to thinking in a certain way.
Yeah.
Which actually makes me think about another part of the text that got me thinking. It's this idea of trying to control your mind. It's almost like the text makes fun of us trying to make our minds be something they're not.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you read about in, Buddhist philosophy and stuff, like Stoicism and things. The mind, like the world around us, is always changing, Trying to control it is, impossible.
Wow.
Like trying to stop the tide from coming in.
Yeah.
It just leads to frustration.
So is all this self-improvement stuff, are we doing it wrong? I mean, trying to control every thought and feeling, maybe real peace comes from just accepting how your mind works.
That's something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we actually making ourselves suffer more? Just imagine what it would be like to, just sit with your thoughts and feelings.
Oh, wow.
And not judge them or try to fight them. Just let them be.
That is a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes with that other big idea in the text. It's that idea that we're all carrying around the weight of our pasts, no matter, what we've done or where we came from.
Even the good parts of our stories can weigh us down.
Oh, interesting.
They can shape us in the present and even limit what we do in the future. We hold on to our successes, our identities, even our traumas.
Right.
And we let them define who we are right now.
It really makes you think, what stories am I holding on to that are holding me back? What would it be like to just let them go and just be here now,
Right.
Without the past weighing me down. I mean, this text is really making me think about my own life.
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck in those loops, letting the past just run the show. But, there's this idea in the text, a kind of hope. It says that love could be what helps us unlock those cages we've built, lighten the load of all those heavy stories we carry.
But they're not talking about romantic love,
right?
It seems like something way bigger.
Right, exactly. Talks about a love that goes beyond just one person, a love that comes from deep down, really accepting everything and everyone, even ourselves, a love that sort of breaks down the walls between, me and you and shows how we're all connected.
That's a huge idea. It really makes you rethink what love even means. So could this kind of love, this big love, could that be what helps us get past the fear and being alone that we all feel sometimes?
It's definitely something to explore. And, the text says one of the first steps is being really honest, brutally honest with ourselves and with everyone.
And to do that, to be that open, you kind of have to accept yourself first, right? Be okay with the parts you don't always want to show.
Totally. It means letting go of that need to look perfect. embracing everything about yourself, even the messy parts, the shadows, seeing that those imperfections, that's what makes us unique.
That is freeing, but also, whoa, kind of scary. What are we so afraid to admit, even to ourselves? And what would it look like to just own it all, every bit of who we are?
Those are tough questions, and the text doesn't shy away from them. And then it gets into this whole other thing, the nature of consciousness, and it uses this amazing image of like a dance.
I love that.
Consciousness as a dance of sound, light, and space.
It makes you think of flow, everything connected. We're not just separate people, but part of this like cosmic dance that keeps going.
Exactly. And the text wants us to see this dance not as some poetic idea, but as real life.
Right.
Can we feel this connection in our lives, the way things just flow together?
It makes you think maybe we struggle when we fight against that flow, when we try to control what's always changing anyway. There's also that thing the text keeps saying that words are limited. They can't really express the deepest truths.
Right.
It's like a reminder that language is powerful.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than that. Words are just symbols. They point to something, but they can't capture the whole experience. Like we have to live it to really know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what experiences have you had that were just beyond words?
For me, it's usually in nature, being under a sky full of stars, feeling how huge the ocean is, just watching the sun come up. Those things hit me in a place that's deeper than words.
Right. Those moments where it's like the line between you and the world disappears and you feel this belonging, this oneness. That's so hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we've all felt that at some point.
And those little glimpses, they show us there's something bigger, something beyond what we understand now. And the text goes even further. It talks about this idea of meaningless, but not in a bad way.
Right.
More like recognizing how huge existence is, all the things we just don't get yet.
It's like admitting that there's mystery of the unknown.
Exactly. And that we can't put everything in a box and label it. The text seems to say that instead of being afraid of what we don't understand, we can actually find freedom in it.
Right, like freedom from having to have all the answers all the time.
Right, exactly. It's a big shift, isn't it? To go from fear to wonder, from I don't know to what if.
Yeah.
It's like a text is telling us to step outside our comfort zones, explore those edges of what we think we know, and find peace in not knowing everything. And maybe in that not knowing, in that mystery, we can find a deeper knowing, a wisdom that doesn't come from our heads, but from actually experiencing life. The text also talks about how we humans have this unique ability to create meaning, to bring order to the world. But it emphasizes that there are so many ways to do that. Infinite ways, really. So many different perspectives, different ways of seeing things.
So it's celebrating all the different human experiences, all the different stories.
Exactly. It reminds us that there's no single right way to make sense of the world. And finding common ground, even when we see things differently, that's a big part of what makes us human.
It's seeing the value in every viewpoint, every story. And it's also really interesting how the text brings up that tension between the individual and the group.
Right. The me and the us.
Right, exactly.
That's a tricky balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need both. The individual perspective with its unique experiences and ideas, and the collective perspective where we feel like we belong, like we're part of something bigger.
And just when you think you're getting a handle on what the text is saying, it pulls back and reminds us that all these explanations, these ideas, they're just another way of understanding things.
Right.
They're still just words, still just a story.
It's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It reminds us that we can never really grasp the whole of existence with our little human minds.
It's like the text is whispering, hey, we can talk about all this, but don't forget, it's all just a map. The real journey happens when you step outside.
Exactly. And that's the invitation, right? To go beyond language and experience it for yourself, explore the mystery, and find your own truth. It's a call to embrace the unknown, to let go of that fear that keeps us stuck in what's familiar. And maybe in that letting go, we find a deeper freedom, a bigger capacity for love and connection. It makes you think about how much fear controls our lives.
Right.
How often do we let fear decide what we do, what we don't do?
It's like we're stuck in this loop reacting to what we're afraid of instead of choosing how we respond. I'm also really interested in that connection the text makes between our inner world and the outer world. It's like it's saying everything we experience out there is a reflection of what's going on inside us.
Wow, yeah, that's powerful. The idea that our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, they all shape how we see the world. It's like we're projecting our inner landscape onto everything around us.
So if we want to change how we experience the world, We have to start by looking inside.
Exactly. And that takes a willingness to really look at our own thoughts, our beliefs, the way we act. It's about taking responsibility for the reality we're creating and realizing that we have the power to change it by changing ourselves. And it's amazing how the text challenges us to question who we think we are.
It gets into that whole ego thing, the sense of self that we cling to so tightly.
Right.
It's suggesting that it's really just a construct. It's made up of our thoughts, beliefs, experiences that we've decided are me.
And the text says that clinging to this limited self can cause us to suffer. We hold on to this ego, we defend it, we protect it. And in doing that, we create a separation between us and the world.
So the text is pointing toward a bigger sense of self, one that goes beyond the ego and sees how we're all connected.
Yeah. It's like an invitation to loosen our grip on the ego and explore this more fluid, interconnected way of being. And as we start questioning who we are, the text also makes us think about what truth really is.
It dives into how our idea of truth is shaped by how we talk about things, by how we were raised. It's reminding us that words are just symbols. They can't fully capture the real lived experience.
Right. The map is not the territory.
Right.
Words are tools, but the ultimate truth, whatever that is beyond language.
So we should be skeptical of anyone who says they have the absolute truth. We should be open to the mystery.
Right.
It's about being humble and curious. The text also gives this beautiful perspective on love and fear.
It says that love is our natural state, while fear is like a closing off, a pulling away from the fullness of life.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, it is.
Love is open and connected, while fear is small and lonely. It's encouraging us to make love our way of being in the world. It's about choosing to open ourselves up, to connect with people, to embrace every part of ourselves, even the parts that scare us. And it reminds us that we're all connected, and the more love we give, the better the world becomes. And then it talks about depression in a way I'd never thought of before. It says depression could be the mind trying to create order when it's overwhelmed by how chaotic and complex life is.
It's almost like a defense mechanism.
Right.
Like it shuts down to protect itself from more pain.
And the text points out that in today's world, we focus so much on our minds that we forget about our bodies. We get lost in our thoughts and worries and forget to just be present in our bodies.
So it's telling us to find that balance between mind and body.
Right.
To take care of both.
And honesty plays a big role in that, doesn't it? The text really emphasizes how powerful honesty is.
Yeah, definitely.
Not just being honest with other people, but being honest with ourselves.
It says that when we're honest with ourselves about how we think and feel and act, that creates space for change. Honesty helps us see ourselves clearly and make choices that are true to who we are.
It's like building a foundation for a life with integrity and purpose. And it seems like honesty is necessary to experience that interconnectedness the text keeps talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about letting go of that illusion that we're separate and seeing how deeply connected we all are. The text has such a beautiful, expansive view of that connection.
It challenges us to see the world in a new way, to recognize the beauty and interconnectedness of all life.
It's calling us to let go of that limited sense of self and embrace a bigger view of reality. It's calling us to cultivate a sense of wonder, to live with purpose and connection to something beyond ourselves.
It's inspiring, but it feels like it's a lifelong practice, right? Like a constant unfolding of awareness and understanding.
Oh, for sure. It's not about reaching some endpoint of enlightenment. It's about the journey, about discovering and growing. And one of the big takeaways for me is the power of our thoughts. The text says that our thoughts aren't just passively observing the world, they're actively creating it.
It's a powerful reminder that we have the ability to shape our own experience.
Exactly. The thoughts we focus on influence how we see things, how we feel, how we act.
So the text encourages us to pay attention to our thoughts, to notice them without judgment, and to choose thoughts that are good for us. It's about realizing our minds have the power to create the reality we want.
And it's also about letting go.
Oh.
The text talks about how holding on to our thoughts, our beliefs, our attachments, that's what causes suffering.
Letting go doesn't mean ignoring our thoughts and feelings, right?
No, it's more about learning to observe them without judgment and letting them pass through us without fighting them.
Like riding a wave.
Exactly. It's about not being so attached to how things turn out and letting life unfold naturally.
The text encourages us to practice letting go in every part of our lives, from what we own to our relationships to our thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah. The path to freedom, peace, and joy. It also talks about the difference between knowing something and believing it, and how our beliefs, often based on what we learned growing up, can limit our experience of reality.
It's a call to question our beliefs, to be open to new ideas and possibilities.
Exactly. To be humble and approach life with a beginner's mind. And then it goes into the power of silence, how it can help us connect with a deeper awareness and peace.
Silence here isn't about no sound, right? It's about quieting the mind, all that mental chatter. Right, exactly. It's about creating space for stillness and listening to what's inside.
The text suggests that when our minds are quiet, we can access a wisdom and insight that's beyond our thoughts. And it encourages us to make silence a part of our lives, whether it's through meditation, spending time in nature, or just finding moments of quiet in our day.
It's a path to clarity, peace, and connection to the present moment. It reminds me of that beautiful description of consciousness as a dance that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the dance of sound, light, and space.
It's a metaphor that invites us to see ourselves as part of this larger cosmic dance. The text seems to suggest that consciousness isn't just in our individual minds, but it's everywhere.
It's a perspective that fills you with awe and wonder and makes you see the world in a whole new way. It also brings up karma and rebirth, the idea that our actions have consequences that go way beyond what we can immediately see.
It's a reminder that we're all interconnected, that our choices matter.
Yeah, and the text encourages us to live with a sense of responsibility, to make choices that are good for everyone. And that sense of responsibility comes from understanding how interconnected we all are.
Right. Realizing that we're all part of this web of life. Which brings us back to that amazing definition of love the text offers. A love that goes beyond just romance and embraces this bigger, more connected way of being.
It's a love that's unconditional, selfless, all-encompassing. It breaks down the barriers between us and sees how connected we all are. The text calls us to cultivate this kind of love, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. It's a call to live with compassion, kindness, and a deep connection to the web of life. And to recognize that truth isn't something we find out there somewhere.
Right.
It's something that unfolds through our own experience. The answers we're looking for are often already inside us. The text is encouraging us to trust our own inner wisdom, to approach life with curiosity and an open mind. It's a beautiful invitation to embrace the journey of life, to discover the meaning and purpose that resonate with our souls. The text paints a really inspiring picture of what it means to live a truly meaningful life.
It suggests that a meaningful life is one that aligns with our values, our passions, and our purpose. It's a life filled with love, joy, and a deep connection to something bigger than ourselves. It encourages us to face life's challenges with courage, authenticity, and a willingness to grow and evolve. And it reminds us that happiness isn't about what happens to us, but what comes from inside.
Yeah, it's a state of being that we cultivate through mindfulness, gratitude, and appreciating the present moment. The text invites us to shift our focus from seeking happiness outside ourselves to finding it within. It's a path to peace, contentment, and fulfillment.
It also acknowledges that suffering is part of being human. It often comes from our attachment to things that are always changing and that we can't ultimately control.
It's a reminder that everything changes, and holding on to things that are temporary just causes pain. The text encourages us to let go of our need to control outcomes and to accept impermanence. It's a path to equanimity, resilience, and peace of mind. It's a beautiful reminder that even amidst challenges and uncertainty, we can choose to find peace and presence within.
And that choice, that conscious effort to cultivate inner peace, has a ripple effect on the world around us. It's amazing how much this text covers, from who we are to how everything's connected. As we wrap up our deep dive, what really stuck with you? What were the big takeaways?
You know, there were so many ideas that made me think, but that emphasis on love really stood out. Like love being the answer to fear and suffering. Not the romantic kind, but a love that embraces absolutely everything and everyone without judgment, without conditions. It's a love that says everyone's worthy no matter what.
That's a pretty radical idea, to look past our own preferences, our own biases, and just love everything. It reminds me of how the text describes consciousness as a dance. That constant flow of energy and form.
That's a great connection. It's like we're all part of this huge cosmic dance, and when we try to control it, when we fight against that flow, that's when we create suffering
Mm.
for ourselves and others. But when we let go, when we move with it, that's when we find ease and harmony.
It's like a metaphor for life itself, isn't it?
Yeah,
Learning to dance with what we don't know, to see challenges and uncertainty as chances to grow. And in the middle of all that, the text reminds us that words have limits. They can only hint at the real truth.
right. It makes you realize that some things are just too big to explain. There are levels of understanding that our minds just can't grasp.
Mm.
It's an invitation to go beyond thinking and just experience.
Have you had those kinds of experiences, moments that were beyond words?
Oh, definitely. For me, it's usually in nature. Standing under a sky full of stars, feeling the power of the ocean, or just watching the sunrise. Those things hit me on a level that I can't even describe. It's awe, mystery, connection to something so much bigger than myself. It makes me feel humbled and incredibly grateful.
I think we've all had those moments, haven't we? Those glimpses of how everything's connected, the mystery and beauty and everything. And maybe, like the text says, that's the whole point. To let go of needing to know everything, to be okay with the unknown, to find peace in the mystery, to trust that even when we don't have the answers, there's something bigger guiding us. This deep dive has given me a lot to think about. It's made me question things, see things differently, and remember how important it is to stay curious and open.
That's what's so great about this text.
Hmm.
It doesn't give you easy answers. It pushes you to ask deeper questions, to go on your own journey of discovery, to find wonder and possibility even when things are complicated. Thank
you for joining us on this deep dive into A Beautiful Place to Get Lost. We hope it's made you curious, given you the urge to explore your own depths and the mysteries of the world. Like the text asks, if all there is what is, how would you be? Think about that. Explore it. Find your own answer. Until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep embracing the beauty of this moment.